Alright everyone, my name is Freeman Fitness and today have I got something to show you. So I've just spent the best part of about half an hour, maybe even up to an hour, creating the ultimate exercise tier list. So we're going to go through all of the exercises that I put in here. As you can see by these photos, basically gathered every single exercise that I could think of. So there's all of the exercises in here, from squats for legs and bench press for your chest. I just basically thought of every single exercise that I could think of in my head and got a picture off Google and put them into this tier list. So like I say, I made this one myself. We'll quickly go through the ranks. So at the top, we've got Arnold approves. These are like the top elite tier exercises that even Arnold himself would say are good. Then we've got great, then we've got average, then we've got do not do this. So this tier is basically for the exercises that are probably going to like cause injury, just the ones that are not very good. And then at the bottom, you've made Arnold cry. The exercise is that bad that Arnold was like, you know what, I can't do this. So let's begin. We're going to go from top to bottom. Going to put all of these pictures down here. I believe there's 48. That's what it said when I put the images into the tier maker anyway. So I'm going to go through every single one of them and rank them in this tier list. So to start off, we have the Arnold press. So to be honest, because it's got Arnold in its name, I think it's got to go in Arnold approves. I mean, Arnold literally made this exercise himself, so how can I not put that in Arnold approves? The next one, a barbell row. Barbell row, I'm going to put that in great. It's definitely a good exercise for the back. I'd say it's better than average, to be honest. Probably one of the best exercises in terms of building the back. Then we've got the barbell squat. I think Arnold would approve of this. It's definitely the best exercise for legs, in my opinion. It's basically, it's like that for all three of the compound movements really. They're definitely some of the best movements out there. So next, behind the back shrugs. I'm going to put this in average. I wouldn't say don't do this, but I believe there's better options for shrugs, better options to grow the traps and doing stuff behind the neck. I mean, don't get me wrong, this works, but personally I'm not the biggest fan. Right, now we have behind the neck press. Do not do this. Alright, I'm just going to put this in do not do this because I'm not a fan of any sort of behind the neck exercise. Like, you're putting your shoulders in a very compromised position. So by doing an exercise like this, you are somewhat likely to cause yourself an injury. If you do it wrong, if you load it too much, if your shoulders can't like get that far back. So for that reason, we're not doing that. And then behind the neck, lat pull down, it's got to go in the same place. I'm just not a big fan of behind the neck movements. Okay, the barbell bench press. Arnold with his massive pecs is definitely going to approve of this one. Again, it's one of the compound lifts, probably the best exercise for building your chest, so I'd say Arnold would approve of that one. Next, we have the cable fly. I'm going to put this in great. For me personally, I'd say this is again one of the best exercises for your chest. It's more isolation work with this rather than the bench press being a compound lift that's going to target all of the muscles in your chest as well as your triceps as well. And I know that Arnold personally, he used to do dumbbell flies, so I think he would probably approve more of a dumbbell version than a cable version, but for me, the cable flies are a great option. Okay, the seated calf raise, definitely a good exercise. I've not used a seated one like this before. I've used a calf machine and one of them that you stand up and you do your calf raises with. But definitely a great exercise for building the calves, I would recommend. Okay, and now we have the conventional deadlift. Arnold would definitely approve of this one. Again, it's a compound movement, but you're going to be hitting all of those muscles in your posterior chain. Definitely a good exercise and one that you should definitely be doing in your training program. Okay, a decline press. I'm going to say this is average. I wouldn't say don't do it, but to be honest, I would much rather do a standard bench press. And if you set up properly anyway with a good arch in your back, you're going to be hitting that lower part of your chest. Speaking of which, there's no lower pec muscles. Like, there's no under boob muscle, if you want to call it that. You've got your pectoralis major and your pectoralis minor. I think that's what it's called. I might sound stupid, I don't know. But there's no under the chest muscle, so this one is kind of just a little bit pointless, but it's okay. Okay, the dumbbell row. I would say I'm going to put this in average. might be a bit of a controversial one, but I definitely prefer the barbell row to the dumbbell row. I feel like I get a lot better of a connection with the barbell row. And this is the thing about a tier list like this, it's very sort of subjective. So one person may find one movement really good and another person may find it bad. I feel like that's the beauty of a tier list like this. Okay, the Egyptian cable raise. I'd say this is a great exercise. This is a very underrated exercise. I feel like a lot of people don't really do this one. They'd opt for the typical side raise, but I think the cable raise, you get a lot better of a connection in your side delt. So for that reason, I put it in great. And now we have the Dumbbell Fly. Getting Arnold approves. That is one of his favourite exercises, let's be real. He used to do these all the time. He used to love the squeeze that you get and the contraction of the Dumbbell Fly. So I'm pretty sure Arnold would approve of that one. Okay, now you've got the front raise. It's not even really average. It's not a good exercise. I wouldn't say that. Man, I think you've made Arnold cry with this one. So the front raise, okay, it's a good exercise and you're going to build your front delts. But the thing is, like, so many other exercises are going to build your front delts. For example, a shoulder press, and even you're going to get a little bit of front delt engagement from a bench press. So I just feel like front raises are very pointless. And so in my opinion, you shouldn't do them, but obviously it's up to you. Okay, now we've got a front squat. Now, I can't do these personally. I'm not going to lie, I'm not good at front squats. I can't get the bar to balance on my shoulders properly, but I'm still putting it in great. I would say a back squat is probably better, but a front squat is really good for targeting your quads. So it's definitely a good exercise, but to be honest, I can't really do them very well. Right, now we've got hip thrust. I had to like look quite like intently at that to even realize what it was. This is a great exercise, right? It's really good for building your glutes if you can do it. I mean, everyone can do it, but it can be a little bit painful on your pelvis if you don't position the bar right and if you don't use a pad. So it's a great exercise, really good for building the glutes and hamstrings. I definitely recommend it. Okay, and now we've got the incline dumbbell press. I'd say Arnold would approve of this one. This is probably one of the better exercises for your upper chest. Probably the best, I would say. I would personally pick the dumbbells over the barbell because you just get a better range of motion. So with the dumbbells, you can bring them quite far back, and obviously it's working your muscles unilaterally. So if you do a barbell bench press, or like especially like an incline press like that, you may find that one side sort of takes over compared to the other. But by doing stuff with dumbbells, you just basically eliminate all of those imbalances. So I'd say Arnold would approve of that. Okay, now one of these back pull down things, right? I'll put these in average. They're quite good for building your back, but I just feel like some of the machinery, like a machine row or a dumbbell row, obviously a barbell row as I've put up in grey, are just better options for building the back. This is something good to add to your workout if you need an extra exercise, but I would recommend doing one of those other movements before this one. Okay, a lat pull down. It's between great and Arnold approves. Would Arnold approve of this one? I would say so. Probably my favourite exercise for the back, personally. Actually, I'm going to put it in great because I've just realised there's something else that's in there that's going to be Arnold approves. But this is one of my favourite back exercises. I really feel like you can feel it working your lats. And so for that reason, yeah, I'll put that in great. I'd say that and the barbell row are some of the key movements for your back. So you definitely want to put that into your training program if you can. Okay, a seated leg curl. Yeah, you've made Arnold cry with this one. There's a better option that I'm not going to say because it's coming up, but to be honest, the seated leg curl, not only is it just really hard to get your body into, it's not great. Okay, so like I was saying, I just don't think the leg curl is the one. Like there's definitely better options out there for your legs. So let's move on. The leg extension. Now this right here, that is a good exercise. One of my personal favourites for building the quads. It's similar to that of a front squat in how much activation you're going to get in your quads. But I feel like with a quad extension or a leg extension, you can really feel the quad muscle working. And if you do get a good squeeze at the top as well, you will notice your legs are just looking like, to be fair, they look really good as you're doing it as well. And I think that just basically explains quite a lot. So I'm putting the leg extensions up in great. Now a leg press, again, another really good movement. Definitely, especially like the incline leg press, you can load it up with a lot of weight, progressively overload quite easily on this exercise. and it's definitely something that you should put into your leg workouts. Now I'm saying this currently at the time of not being able to go to the gym because we're in lockdown, but just imagine we're in the gyms right now and you're building your workout plan, wanting to know what exercises you could put in there. That's what we're thinking of here. So yeah, the leg press is a very good exercise. And here we have the exercise that I would recommend as opposed to this one, the lying leg curl. This is another great exercise. Same with the leg extension, it's really good for targeting your hamstrings this time, and I'll definitely recommend putting that into your workouts. Okay, so the machine tricep extension. I would say this is average, and there's better exercises for your triceps, but this is really good at the end of a workout, especially if you are just training arms. If you need something at the end that you can just pump out, it's going to be a little bit easier on your muscles. Doing this type of exercise on a machine is going to be good for that. But I would put other tricep exercises above this. Okay, the machine fly. I just realised I've got 3 types of flies in here. I would say this is average. It's good for loading up a lot of weight on when you're doing a fly, but to be honest, I feel a much better connection with the dumbbells and especially with the cables as well. I feel like obviously there's a lot of other exercises that you can do with the same movement pattern, which just are better than this one. So I wouldn't say to not do this because it is good for overloading weight on, but I just feel like the other options you have available are better. Okay, this is like kind of a machine chest press, but it's one of them where you load the weights on and then you press. This is I'd say it's a great exercise. I've always got on really well with doing this, and I feel like I can feel the muscle working a lot more in a chest press, for example, compared to like a machine fly. So that's the reason why I put that in great. You may disagree. Okay, and now the Tricep and Dip Machine. I would say don't do this. So this is a good exercise if you can get it right. And that's the thing, it's really hard to get this exercise correct. Because you're putting your arms back here, it's so easy to try and move the shoulders up and down when you're doing this exercise. And I've gone wrong with this a lot of times. So for that reason, I've put it in do not do this, because to be honest, unless you're an advanced lifter and you've really got the mind muscle connection down and you know which muscle you're working, this exercise is just an easy one to get wrong. Okay, so we're on to the rear delt fly on the machine. I would say it's average, just because again there is better options out there for your rear delts. It's still a good exercise. I would say to like incorporate it into your programs, especially if you're doing rear delts on like a pull session and you've already exhausted your back and you need something that's a little bit easier to do that you can still overload on and work the muscles. That's when machines are basically best, left for like the end of the workout when you need something extra. But as I say, there is another exercise in here that I'll put above this one. Okay, the machine row. I would say this is a great exercise. For me personally, I've always got on with this exercise and I feel like I can really feel my back working when I pull that machine towards me. And for that reason, I've stuck it in great. I know we've had a while since Arnold approved something, but it's gonna come. It's gonna come soon. So yeah, I just find this exercise really good for working the back. I would probably recommend a barbell row over it, but I would say it's better than a dumbbell row in terms of the connection that you can get on your back. So now we have the machine shoulder press. And I'd put this in average. I find that using free weights is so much better for a pressing movement like this. And whilst this exercise or this machine is really good, I just don't think it's as good as, say, a chest press machine, as I feel like you can get a lot more involvement in your shoulders if you use free weights. Again, that is just my personal opinion. Okay, this one, you made Arnold cry. This is just, it's a weird machine. I don't know if Arnold used this before, but if you've not seen this machine before, you come in like this and then you hold like some handles here, and I guess what it teaches you to do is when you do a side raise to keep your elbow above your wrist, which is what you should always be doing when you're trying to do a side raise. But to be honest, I just think there's so many better options, and I think it's quite easy to like shrug your shoulders when you do this, which is not what you want to do, because then you're going to be targeting your traps. So again, it's one of them ones where it's easy to get it wrong, and to be honest, I'm just not a big fan of it. Okay, the barbell OHP. I know I just said Arnold approves hasn't got much love. It's going in Arnold approves. Now, this is a compound exercise. A lot of people will say that squat, bench and deadlift are the 3 compound movements, We've got to remember the overhead press as well. It's targeting all 3 parts of your delt as well as your tricep. It is targeting more than one muscle group. So by definition, it is classed as a compound movement. And this is just really good for building your shoulders. I'd definitely say it's one of the best exercises that you can incorporate into your program for training your shoulders. And that is why Arnold would approve of it. Okay, the overhead tricep extension. This is quite average. Now, I've done this quite a lot in my training, and it's good for overloading, like, loading up a lot of weight and keep progressing each week with your lifts in that sense. But for me personally, especially doing it with 2 hands, I find that doing it with 1 hand is a little bit better, like doing it unilaterally. But I find that with the double hand overhead extension, I just don't feel much tricep involvement, but that's how I found it anyway. Okay, and like I was saying about the lat pull down earlier, the reason why it wasn't going in Arnold approves is because we've got a pull up in here. One of the best exercises for building your back. You can't argue with it. Pull-ups and dips together are just some of the best body weight exercises that you can do in general, as well as of course the push-up. But you will find that if you do pull-ups regularly, and you could do a lot of pull-ups, you will build a big back, especially if you can start overloading that with weight as well. There's just so much option with a pull-up. Like, you could do it assisted with a band or a machine. You could do it with a closer grip or a wider grip. You could do it with weight loaded onto your body. As I say, there's just so many options, and that's why I'm putting it in the top tier. Okay, a rack pull. I'm gonna put this in average. It's a good movement. It's good for your back. Like, it's good for building up your deadlift, learning how to lock out and stuff. But as I say about a deadlift, it's a lot better. It's a much better option than a rack pull. And I find that you can often do rack pulls wrong. Like, it's easy to just stand up with the weight and not really feel the muscles working, but you really have to pull your shoulder blades together at the top, sort of pull from your back. Like I say, it's a hard one to get right, and that's why I've only put it in average. So now, the rear delt fly. I personally think this is a great exercise. It's one that I incorporate into my training a lot, and it's better for me personally than the machine one that I mentioned earlier, just because I feel like I get more of an involvement in my rear delts. I feel like the lats can take over a lot in the machine rear delt fly. So for that reason, that's why I put these dumbbells higher. The next one we got is the rear delt dumbbell row. And I'm going to put this in average purely for the fact that I find the fly targets the rear delts much better. And so that's the reason why I put rear delt flies higher than rear delt rows. Alright, so we're getting to the end. We're on the last row now. The next one we've got is a rope tricep extension. This is a great exercise. This is one that I find works so much better than the standards cable pushdowns, because when you have the rope, you're able to actually extend out as well. And I feel like you can get a really good connection with your triceps. So for that reason, I'll put that in great. It's one of the better exercises for the triceps in my opinion. And normally you'll find that free weight exercises are better than cable and machine exercises. But I feel like for this specific movement and for the triceps, this is one of the best ones. Okay, now we have a dumbbell shrug. I don't know if Arnold would approve. I'm going to put it in great. It's definitely one of the better exercises for building the traps. Really good for trap development. There is another, is it in there? Okay. Oh, okay, yeah, it's in there. There's another exercise that I find is better for traps, but this is definitely a really good one for building up your traps. Okay, dumbbell side raises. Arnold approves. These are probably the best shoulder exercise, along with OHP. Them two together are just the key to building good shoulders. If you do them correctly, of course. You need to remember to keep your elbows above your wrists at all times with this movement. And there's just no match in terms of side delt exercises. I just feel like this one is the best one out there. And again, this is subject to opinion. We all have our own opinions, which is why I've created this tier list. And I want as many people as possible to give it a go. So the next one is a skull crusher. And I would say, from personal experience, I would put it in average. Just because, again, it's quite hard to get the form right with this one. You'll often find that if you don't put your arms in the right position, you won't really feel your triceps working that much. You need to make sure you're getting that barbell over your head and not like to your nose or your mouth. You need to make sure you've got your arms extended back far enough so that you're engaging the triceps. So I've put that in average. Okay, now we have a Smith machine press, like a chest press. Again, I'll pop this in average. It's good for overloading weight on, and I know a few people might disagree with the placing of this. They'll probably say it's good or Some may even say it's better than a barbell bench press, but in my personal opinion, while it is good for overloading weight and being able to just pile on the weight and do more than you'll be able to do on a normal bench press, it takes out the compoundness of it. That doesn't really make any sense, but I'm rolling with it anyway. Essentially, when you do a barbell bench press, you're going to be engaging your core to keep the bar stable. But what the Smith machine does is it basically takes out that core involvement. So it does mean that you're purely working your chest. You can put more weight on, but you're taking out that core engagement. And I feel like that's one of the reasons that make the bench press what it is. So that's why I put that in average. All right, we've got a sumo deadlift. I'm going to put this in grey. In my personal opinion, the conventional style of deadlift is better than the sumo style. There's not really any reason for this. Like, both of the movements are going to target the same muscles. I just find that it's hard to get into the position with sumo deadlifts, and they are good for taller people because it means that you've got less of a range of motion. So if you are somewhat of a power lifter, if you're training for strength rather than aesthetics, doing something like a sumo deadlift may mean that you can lift more weight once you master the form. But I just find that personally I get a lot more of a connection with a barbell conventional deadlift. Okay, the next exercise is a T-bar row. I'm pretty sure Arnold would approve of this. I don't know if it's him that does these a lot, or it might be someone else that's big like in the fitness industry. But T-bar rows are definitely a really good back builder. I found in my personal experience that I get a lot of lat engagement from these compared to some of the other back exercises that are in this list, and that is why I put those in Arnold approves. Speaking of Arnold approves, like I said earlier about the pull-ups, I'm going to put the dips right next to them. Pull-ups and dips are just the king when it comes to bodyweight exercises. And again, there's so many ways that you can do dips. You could even do them off a bench if you don't want to use the bars. You could overload it with weights. You could do it assisted with a pull-up and dip station, like one of those assist things that you've probably seen in gyms if you've been to them. And yeah, like I say, the dip is just so versatile. And also, if you do lean forward, you can activate your chest as well as your tricep. So I guess in a way, it is more of a compound movement as well. And for that reason, I put it at the top tier. Tricep kickbacks. You made Arnold cry. Speaking of that though, I feel like now I've said it, I can picture him doing these exercises like the tricep kickbacks, but to be honest with you, they're not that good, right? I've just seen another exercise that I'm probably going to say Arnold cries in, so I'm going to recommend not doing these instead. I don't think Arnold would be tearing up over this exercise, but it's definitely one that I wouldn't recommend. The reason being is, yes, while when you're at the top of the movement, when you're fully stretched out like the image is demonstrating right there, you're going to get good tricep engagement. But when you come back down and you reset, you have no tricep engagement at the bottom of the movement. That is why I would recommend not doing that, and instead probably taking it out for a cable pushdown, because you'll find that with a cable pushdown, even when you're at the top of the movement, your triceps are still engaged to hold the rope there. Whereas with the kickbacks, when it's in the bottom position and you're a little bit like that, like, where is the tricep engagement there? There isn't. It's just when you go like that, it works. When you're like that, there's nothing. For that reason, I would recommend not doing them. The upright row. Don't do this, people. It's very dangerous on the shoulders to do an upright row. You can do it. It's not like, it's not an impossible movement. You're not gonna just like do one rep and then break your shoulders. But it's when you're up in this position, you're very compromised. I mean, as you can see, even like the wrists are a little bit like, it's not really a natural movement. So you put yourself in a very compromised position. If you don't do it properly, your shoulders will be rotated in a way that they shouldn't be, and so it can be very easy to injure yourself on a movement like this. So for that reason, he's in tears, mate. He's crying. He don't want you to do this movement. Okay, and the final exercise on this tier list is a barbell shrug with a wide grip. Now I would say this is a great exercise, definitely good for building the traps. I would recommend using a barbell over a dumbbell. Might be a bit of a controversial opinion. I know that you can sort of fix imbalances a bit better by doing single arm movements like with the dumbbells. But in my opinion, I feel like the barbell is just better in general, and that is why I've put it in great. Right, so my phone just decided to troll me. I don't know why. I was just recording the last bit of that tier list, and then my camera app just died on me. I went back into the photos to try and find the video and it wasn't there. So I just spent all this time trying to redo the tier list up until the point of what I last recorded. And then this final clip for the video just appeared. So If you can just like the video, share it, make sure you subscribe to the page as well. I'd really appreciate it for all of the hard work I've gone through to get you this video. But to finish it off, let's look at the tier list one more time. Okay, so here we have it, the completed tier list. We've got a lot of things in great and a lot of things in average. The thing is with exercises is that a lot of them, if you do them with correct form and you know what you're doing, there's not really many where you'd say, right, you shouldn't do this. The only ones that I've really stuck at the bottom here are things that are hard to get into, things that are hard to get the form right, and just in general things that might cause injury. All the things at the top, I'm sure Arnold would absolutely be having in his training program, and then obviously we've got a lot of things in the middle. So this website is called Tier Maker, and the tier list is called the Ultimate Exercise Tier List. Make sure you give this a go, give it a react. I'm going to share the template on Twitter, so you should be able to find it on there, but I'm also going to put it into the description of this YouTube video, so make sure you take a look. And my Twitter is Ryan Freeman YT, so make sure you give me a follow as well. So yeah, I'm going to put that out right now, and let's end this video here. So everyone, I really hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you did, and I'll bring you more content like this. Make sure you give the tier list a go yourself, tag me in it, I want to see your guys' opinions, and let me know in the comments down below one exercise that I got completely wrong. Let's see how many of you disagree, let's see how many of you agree. I feel like it'd be very interesting to have a look at. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.